All right, welcome back, everyone. We're diving deep today, getting into something uh, super important in the world of software development.
Yeah, it's one of those things that might not be flashy, it doesn't get a lot of attention, but it's absolutely essential.
Exactly. We're talking about test analysis, or
Mm.
some people call it the test basis.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about making sure that the software, well, actually does what it's supposed to do. And get this, it all starts way before, any code is even written.
You got it, before a single line of code.
So imagine this. Let's say you're building a house. Obviously, you need a blueprint, right?
Of course, you can't just start throwing bricks around.
Right. Well, test analysis, that's like building a blueprint for quality. We're looking at all the requirements documents, figuring out what needs to be tested and why.
It's kind of like, setting the stage for success. Before we even start building the software, we're thinking about how to make sure it works.
So we're talking about things like requirement specs,
Yeah.
design docs, all those papers that get tossed around.
Oh, yeah, those are important.
Can you break it down for folks who might not be, super familiar with the software development lingo? What are these documents and why are they so crucial for testers?
Absolutely. So let's say you're building an app for a business, right? One of the first things you'll have is something called a business requirement specification.
The BRS.
The BRS, that's right. And this is like the why document. It tells us what the business is trying to solve, what problem they're facing, and what they need this app to do for them.
So it's like the big picture.
Exactly, the big picture. Then you have the software requirement specification.
Oh, the SRS.
Yeah, the SRS. This one gets into the nitty-gritty, the details, the what of the software. It outlines the specific features and functions the software needs to have to solve those business problems, from the BRS.
Gotcha. So this is getting more specific.
Exactly, more specific. And then you have design documents, which are all about the how. This is where the technical folks come in and map out how the software will be built, the nuts and bolts.
So testers need to be familiar with like all of these documents. That's a lot.
Oh, yeah, it
Yeah.
is a lot, but it's essential. You see, testing isn't just, like randomly clicking around on the software and hoping something breaks. It's a systematic process. And test analysis, it's like our roadmap. It tells us exactly what to test, how to test it, and most importantly, why we're testing it.
It's like it's taking all of that information and turning it into like a plan of attack.
A plan of attack, exactly. So when we find a bug, we know exactly what requirement wasn't met. It helps us pinpoint issues and communicate them effectively back to the developers.
I see, I see. So where does test analysis fit into the bigger picture? I mean, what comes before it and what comes after the whole software development cycle?
Great question. So typically, before test analysis, you have requirements gathering and analysis. This is where you're working with the client or, stakeholders, really understanding their needs, what they want to achieve, and then translating those needs into clear, documented requirements.
So that's where those BRDs and SRSs come from.
Exactly. They come out of that process. Then, after the test analysis, you move into test design. This is where we use those test conditions we identified during the analysis to actually create detailed test cases.
So we're talking step-by-step instructions.
Step by step, yep. Like a recipe for testing specific scenarios. And then, of course, after test design comes the actual testing phase where we run those tests.
All right, all right. I think I'm getting the picture here. It's like a bridge. Test
Right.
analysis, it's like a bridge between understanding what needs to be built and then actually checking if it works, as it's supposed to.
Exactly. A bridge between requirements and testing.
So to make this all a bit more real, let's dive into that e-commerce case study you mentioned. Let's say our client, they want us to add a simple search function to their online store, like a search bar. Seems pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah, sounds simple enough.
But I have a feeling you're going to tell me it's not that simple.
You know me too well. It sounds simple, but even a basic feature like search can have so many potential issues if you don't test it thoroughly. I mean, think about it. What happens if a user hits the search button without typing anything in the search bar?
Hmm. Yeah, good point. What should happen?
Exactly. Should the website show every single product they have?
That wouldn't be very helpful.
Not helpful at all.
Right.
Should it show like a message saying, hey, you need to enter a keyword? Or maybe show some popular products or suggestions. Each possibility needs to be considered and tested.
Oh, wow. So even something as simple as an empty search bar, there's all sorts of things to think about.
It's all about the user experience, making sure the site is intuitive and helpful, even when someone makes a mistake.
And what about if someone searches for something, a product that the store just doesn't have.
Another great point. That's another really important test case. How does the system handle that? Does it show an error message like a 404?
Oh yeah, page not found.
Right. But maybe instead of a generic error, it could suggest similar products, or, it could even offer a way to contact customer service.
So you can be like, hey, I'm looking for this. Do you have it?
Exactly. The point is we have to map out all these scenarios during test analysis. Think about all the different ways a user might interact with the search function and how we want the system to respond.
Okay, and what if there are multiple products that match what someone typed in? How are those results displayed?
Yeah, how are they ordered?
Should there be options for sorting, filtering, all that stuff? Wow, this is getting really complex.
And this is just scratching the surface. We're just talking about a search bar here. In a real-world scenario, you'd have dozens, maybe even hundreds of test cases for a search function.
Wow, hundreds.
And all of those come from, you guessed it, a thorough analysis of those requirements and design documents.
Okay, so basically, test analysis is taking a simple request like add a search bar and turning it into a super detailed battle plan for testers. It's about anticipating problems before they happen.
Exactly. Anticipating problems and making sure everything works exactly as it should.
It might seem like a lot of work up front.
It can be, but trust me, it is worth it.
Why?
Because finding a bug during testing, way cheaper than fixing it after the software is already released. We're talking about saving potentially thousands, even millions of dollars.
Yeah, that makes sense. No one wants a buggy product out in the wild.
Yeah.
So, listeners, let's put ourselves in the tester's shoes for a minute. Think about another simple feature, something like a shopping cart on an e-commerce site.
Oh, that's a good one.
What are some things that could go wrong, just off the top of your head? How would you test through those issues?
I love this. Thinking about all the what ifs, all the different ways someone could use a shopping cart, that's what testing is all about.
That's test analysis in action, everyone. Always asking what if
Yeah.
and exploring all the possibilities.
Always one step ahead.
And with that, we'll wrap up our deep dive for today. Hopefully you all have a better understanding of test analysis and why it's so important in building great software.
Thanks for listening.
Catch you next time.